I never used to be afraid of being alone. Silence was comfort. Shadows were just shadows. The house was only wood, glass, and concrete. That was before the night I heard the knock that still follows me. It was late, past 3 in the morning. The hour when the world feels like it has died and left only you behind. The air in my home was heavy, stale, like the rooms were holding their breath. I couldn't sleep, so I sat on the couch, scrolling mindlessly through my phone, trying to drown out the buzzing emptiness. The lights were low, a single lamp humming in the corner, spilling just enough glow to paint the walls in a sickly orange. Then it came. 3 sharp knocks. Not frantic, not timid, calm, intentional. They echoed through the house like nails being tapped into a coffin lid. I froze. At first I thought it was the TV, a sound effect bleeding from some forgotten tab. But no, it was the front door. Knock, knock, knock. The same rhythm, the same patience. My throat tightened. Who the hell knocks at 3:13 a.m.? I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I waited, heart pounding against my ribs, praying it was a drunk neighbor or some stupid prank. The knock stopped. For a moment I thought it was over. But then came the whisper. A voice. Muffled. Just beyond the door. Let me in. Soft. Calm. Like someone asking for a glass of water. I felt my skin crawl. I couldn't answer. My voice was gone, stolen by the weight of that whisper. Then silence. I should have gone upstairs, locked myself in my room, called the police, but I didn't. Some awful part of me was curious. Against every instinct, I crept toward the door. Each step felt like it carried me deeper into a grave. The peephole was dark, nothing but a void. I leaned closer, squinting, trying to make out a shape, and then I saw it, an eye pressed right against the glass, unblinking, pale. It looked wrong, stretched too wide, the sclera too cloudy, the iris a drowning gray. I stumbled back, choking on my breath. My body screamed at me to run, but my legs trembled like dead weight. The knocks came again, louder, knock, knock, knock. The voice followed, clearer this time, let me in. Not pleading, demanding. I grabbed my phone, hands shaking, dialing 911. The operator answered. Her voice steady, practiced. I tried to explain, words tumbling out too fast, choking with panic. She told me to stay calm, to stay inside, that officers were on their way, but then she said something that curdled my blood. Sir, the call came from your address. I froze. What? I whispered. You're calling from this number, correct? She asked. Yes, the system flagged the origin. Someone else called 911 from your address 3 minutes ago. I couldn't respond, couldn't think. My eyes drifted toward the stairs, toward the shadows pooling at the top. The knock had stopped. The whisper had stopped, but I wasn't alone. I heard it. Footsteps. Upstairs. Slow. Careful. Dragging. The sound of bare feet brushing against wood. I whispered to the operator that someone was inside, begged her to send help faster. She told me to stay on the line, but the call dropped. The screen went black even though my phone was still charged. Dead. I backed into the living room, clutching the useless phone like a weapon, eyes locked on the staircase. The footsteps grew closer, descending one step at a time, then silence again. I couldn't breathe. My lungs burned. My skin felt like it was peeling off my bones. I forced myself to move, rushing to the kitchen, grabbing the biggest knife I could find. My reflection in the blade looked pale, ghost-like, and then I heard it. My own voice, coming from the hallway. Let me in. The exact tone, the exact pitch, my voice. I gripped the knife so hard my knuckles cracked. The hallway was empty, but the air felt alive, thick, like something unseen was breathing against my neck. I backed into the kitchen corner, whispering to myself that this wasn't real, that I was dreaming. But then the lights flickered, once, twice, and died. Darkness swallowed everything. I heard the door creak open. Not slam, not rattle, just open. The air shifted, a cold wave rolling into the house, and in the dark I heard more footsteps. Not one, many dozens moving through the living room, into the kitchen, into the walls, into the ceiling, surrounding me, and then silence, total. I couldn't even hear my heartbeat. I whispered into the dark. What do you want? And they answered all at once, a chorus of voices. my voice, "Let us in," I ran. I don't remember how. I don't remember opening the door, or the streetlight swallowing me, or my bare feet pounding against the pavement. I just remember ending up outside on the curb, gasping, sobbing, neighbors' lights flicking on in confusion. When the police finally came, they found the front door closed, locked, every window sealed. No signs of forced entry, no footprints, no evidence. But here's the part that makes my skin rot every time I think of it. They found something upstairs, in my bedroom, a tape recorder, still running, on it. My voice, knocking, whispering, laughing, the last words on the tape. I'm already inside, and I swear to you, I never owned a recorder. I moved out the next day. I sleep in motels now, never the same one twice. I don't stay anywhere after 3 a.m. I don't answer knocks. I don't look through peepholes, but sometimes, when I close my eyes, I still hear it. Knock, knock, knock. And the whisper, soft, patient, waiting, let me in. And the worst part? Sometimes, I do. I used to love rainy nights. The sound of water tapping the roof was soothing, like nature's lullaby. But that changed the night I stayed home alone during the storm. That was the night I learned the house wasn't mine. It never was. It began with a scratching sound. Faint. Almost easy to dismiss. I was curled on the couch, a blanket wrapped tight, a horror movie flickering across the screen. The wind howled outside and rain smacked against the windows. For a while, I told myself the scratching was just branches dragging along the siding. That made sense. That was safe, but then it moved. The sound traveled. From the wall behind the TV to the wall beside me. Then up, higher into the ceiling. A deliberate crawl. Scratch, scratch, scratch. I muted the movie. The sound didn't stop. I whispered into the empty room. "Hello?" Silence answered. Then another scratch directly above me. My stomach nodded. The house was old, sure, but not that old. I had never heard animals inside before. I thought maybe it was a raccoon or mice. That explanation calmed me enough to move. I climbed the stairs, flashlight in hand, heading toward the attic. The door to the attic was swollen from the damp weather. It groaned when I pushed it open. The beam of my flashlight cut through the dust, revealing boxes, cobwebs, insulation scattered across the floor. I listened. Nothing. I started to turn back when I noticed something. A hole. At the far end of the attic, behind a stack of boxes, the insulation had been peeled away. The wood was splintered, torn as though something had clawed through it from the inside. And then, whispering. So faint I thought it was the wind. But the longer I listened, the clearer it became. A voice, no. Voices hissing, chanting, my name. I dropped the flashlight. The beam spun across the attic, landing on something pale, something that moved. A hand, not human. Too long, too thin. The fingers bent at impossible angles, nails jagged and yellow. It slid back into the hole before the light could fully catch it. I didn't go closer. I slammed the attic door shut and bolted it. My chest felt like it was caving in. I grabbed my phone and dialed pest control, pretending this was something explainable, something rational. But when they picked up, the line was full of static. Then my voice came through, whispering. I'm in the walls. I dropped the phone. For hours I sat frozen, clutching the blanket, eyes darting to every corner of the room. The scratching started again, louder, faster, crawling inside the walls, circling me like a predator testing its cage. Then the lights went out. The storm had killed the power, plunging the house into darkness. I lit a candle, the flame trembling like my hands. The scratching grew frantic, echoing through the studs, the beams, the ceiling, and then silence until the wall beside me bulged. Not much. Just a ripple, like something pressing from the inside, testing the plaster. I pressed my hand against it. Warm. Then it pushed back. I screamed, stumbling away, the candlelight flickering across the wall. The bulge shifted, dragging along the surface, following me. I ran to the kitchen, grabbed a knife, heart clawing at my ribs. The whisper came again. From inside the walls, hungry, I tried to leave. The front door wouldn't budge. The lock turned, but the wood held firm, as though nailed shut from the outside. The windows wouldn't open. My house had become a cage. The bulging walls followed me room to room. Each time I stopped, the plaster would swell, shiver, as though whatever lived inside was pressing its face to the surface. Smelling me, tasting my fear, I retreated upstairs, barricading myself in the bedroom. The scratching grew louder, above, below, all around. Then it stopped. I pressed my ear to the wall. breathing, slow, heavy. Right beside me, I whispered, "What do you want?" The wall split. A crack tore open across the plaster, jagged, splintering. From the gap, a single eye peered through, too big, too pale, rolling, searching. It fixed on me and I couldn't move. Then the voice came again, not whispered, not faint, but booming through the walls, shaking the room. "Let me out." I swung the knife, stabbing into the plaster, screaming, trying to drive it back. The wall shuddered, the cracked ceiling, the voice collapsing into laughter. My laughter. The door burst open. Police, neighbors, they had heard me screaming. I tried to explain, pointing to the walls, begging them to listen. But the cracks were gone. The bulges vanished. The wall stood solid, blank, silent. They found me clutching the knife, wild-eyed, shaking. They thought I had lost my mind, but when they searched the attic, they found something. Not a hole. A tunnel, carved deep into the walls, winding down into the foundation. Too small for a human to crawl through, too smooth to be dug by animals. The tunnel ended in a cavity behind my bedroom wall. Inside, they found scraps of fabric, fingernail clippings, teeth not mine, not anyone's they could identify. I don't live there anymore, but the house hasn't sold. No one stays longer than a month. They all complain of the same thing, the scratching, the whispering, the hunger in the walls. And sometimes, when I close my eyes at night, even in places far from that house, I swear I hear it again, scratch, 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 closer, always closer. I've always hated windows at night. During the day, they're harmless, just glass letting in sunlight. But when darkness falls, they turn into mirrors, cold, black, infinite. You look out, and instead of seeing the world, you see yourself. Or worse, something else. That night, I was home alone. My parents had gone out of town, and I had the house to myself for the weekend. I thought it would be relaxing. Movies, junk food, the kind of freedom that feels like a taste of adulthood. It was close to midnight when I finally switched off the TV and headed upstairs. The house was quiet. Too quiet. No hum from the fridge. No ticking clock. Just silence. I brushed it off and went to my room. My desk faced the window. Outside, the street was deserted. A thin fog rolled across the pavement, glowing under the faint street lamp. The glass reflected my face, tired eyes, pale skin, a faint smile. Then as I turned away, I saw it. Not my face. Another. It was only there for an instant, but it was enough. Pressed against the glass was a pale figure. Hollow eyes, a mouth stretched too wide, staring. I froze, every muscle in my body locking up. My mind screamed that I was imagining things, that I was tired, seeing shadows in reflections, but my heart knew better. I crept closer, inching toward the window. The fog swirled outside, but nothing moved. No figure, no face, just emptiness. I told myself it was my imagination. A trick of light. I pulled the curtains shut and crawled into bed, forcing myself to breathe slow, deep, steady. That's when I heard the tapping. Soft. Barely there. Like fingernails on glass, tap, tap, tap. I pulled the blanket over my head, convincing myself it was tree branches or the wind. But it didn't stop. The rhythm was too precise, too human. I whispered into the dark, "Go away." The tapping stopped. Relief washed over me until I heard the whisper from the other side of the window. "Why?" I bolted upright, sweat pouring down my neck. My room was silent again. I didn't dare move. I sat there for what felt like hours until exhaustion finally dragged me into sleep. The next morning, sunlight poured through the curtains. For a moment, I almost laughed at myself. It had to have been a nightmare, right? Until I saw the glass. Handprints pressed against the outside of the window. Too high for a person to reach without a ladder. Long fingers. Too long. I didn't tell anyone. How could I? I tried to rationalize. Maybe kids messing around, maybe I was half dreaming. But deep down I knew the truth, something had been there. Watching. That night I taped the curtains shut. Every edge sealed. No gaps. No chance of seeing anything. I climbed into bed, clutching a flashlight, refusing to close my eyes. It started again. Tap, tap, tap. I covered my ears. The sound grew louder, stronger, not fingernails anymore. Knuckles. Knock, knock, knock. Then the whisper, right against the glass. "Look at me." I shook my head, burying myself deeper under the blanket. My throat burned with a scream I couldn't release. The knocking stopped. Silence. I thought it was over. Then my phone buzzed. A message notification, unknown number. A photo of me. sleeping in my bed, the curtains still sealed. I dropped the phone, bile rising in my throat. My skin crawled with the realization it wasn't outside. It never was. The tapping began again, but not at the window, at the closet door. Soft, patient tap, tap, tap. I couldn't move. My body was paralyzed with terror. The door creaked open an inch, darkness spilling into the room like smoke. And then, silence. I don't remember falling asleep. Maybe I blacked out. Maybe I never slept at all. When I woke the next morning, the closet door was wide open. My clothes were untouched, but on the inside of the door, scratched deep into the wood, were words. You looked. I ran. I didn't back. I didn't lock the door. I just ran. I stayed with a friend, made excuses, pretended I was fine, but I wasn't, because it followed me. Every night since, no matter where I am, no matter how tightly I seal the windows, I hear it. Tap, 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 then the whisper. Look at me. And sometimes, when I'm too tired, when my will breaks, I do. And every time the face is closer. One night soon, I think it'll be inside. And when it is, I don't think I'll be the one telling this story anymore.